Hello everyone, my name is Derek and welcome back to day 10 of learning HTML. This is day 10. We've made it this far. We've learned a lot of things and we might have forgotten some things, which makes sense with the amount of things we learned. So today we're actually going to be doing somewhat of a recap. So to do this, we're going to be doing a trivia. So this trivia will help us test our understandings on topics. It'll also cover things we've already discussed and learned in HTML class 1 to 9. And it'll also help us resolve our misunderstandings, hopefully. So we're moving on to section 1, and this is name the symbol, multiple choice. So we have the first symbol. I'm just going to give you a little bit of time to think, and I'll answer it. You can pause the video. Okay, so we're revealing the answer. These are the angle brackets, and we use them for the syntax of creating an HTML tag, including closing tags. So we're on to the next symbol again. Once again, you can pause it if you want to think of your answer, because I'll be revealing the answer in 3, 2, 1. Okay, so the correct answer to this, you might have actually mixed this up, but this is the /. And a way to not mix up the forward and backslash is by basically remembering how we read from left to right. So we can basically say that going forward when reading text or to read ahead is to be going forward. So we can say this is the / because it's tilted right, or the top part is tilted right. Okay, we're moving on to the next one. Pause the video now. Okay, so we're going to be revealing the answer. So this is the semicolon. We use the semicolon for separating statements. I believe we last touched on this when we were learning about CSS, and we need to separate the CSS property statements. Okay, so we're on to the next name the symbol. This one's actually cool because you have to basically cancel out things we've already learned in order to get the answer to this one. Okay, hopefully you pause the video and we're going to be revealing the answer now. So these are called parentheses. Might be a little funny pronounced, but yeah, these are called parentheses. Okay, on to the next name of the symbol. Pause the video now. Okay, we're revealing the answer. These are called curly brackets. Now we use this to basically group info together and say, yep, all this info is supposed to be grouped together and it points to this. So we also use this for the external CSS file method for when writing CSS. And yeah. So now we're moving on to section 2. It's going to get a little bit more difficult. Now it's on normal. And yeah, you just have to point out which statement is true. This is multiple choice and open-ended. Okay, so we have the p tag. I'll read out the statements, and yeah, right after I read out the statements, you can pause the video and I'll be sharing the answer if you want to think over it. So option A is that the P in p tag is short for persuasive text. Option B is that the p tag is the only element that produces text. Option C is that it is an CSS property. And option D is that the p tag is a block element. Okay, we're going to be revealing the answers now. The correct answer was option D. The p tag is a block element. If we remember, a block element is an element that takes up the full width of the line. And yeah, so we definitely know that it can be option B because it's not the only element that produces text, because we remember the H1 element and all of the other headings elements. We know that the P is already short for paragraphs, not persuasive text. And then it can't be a CSS property because it is an HTML tag. Okay, on to the next one, the TR tag. Okay, option A is that it has no closing tag. Option B is that the TR tag is not a real HTML tag. Option C is that the TR tag defines a table row. And option D is that it makes text appear to the right. Okay, we're revealing the answer. The answer is option C. It defines a table row. So yeah, we're familiar with this when we were learning how to create tables within HTML. Okay, so now on to the next one. An inline element is A, the opposite of a doc type declaration. B, able to have multiple elements on the same line. C, an HTML attribute. Or D, the same thing as a block element. Okay, we're revealing the answer. An inline element, this isn't an option, but it is the option of a block element. And in this case, if we had to choose the one thing that is correct about it, we would say is able to have is able to have multiple elements on the same line. So the answer is option B. Because if, just as I mentioned last time, a block element is not able to have multiple elements on the same line, and it takes up the full line width. Okay, on to the next one. We have angle brackets with CSS, or basically a tag. So yeah, this is the CSS tag, I guess you can call it. So option A is that the CSS tag always goes in the head tag. Option B is that this CSS tag is actually not even a real HTML tag. Option C is that the CSS tag is used for giving style information to elements. And option D is that the CSS tag uses the style attribute. Okay, so the correct answer, this was a trick question, is option B. The CSS tag is not a real tag, and you were probably mixing it up with a tag that pretty much is the same thing you might imagine this would do, the style tag. So option B. Okay, so we're moving on to section 3. We're going to be filling in the blanks, and this is open-ended. So now things are starting to get a little bit harder. Okay, so I'll read this out, and I'll, of course, put in the blank, and then I'll fill in the answer after. So make sure to pause the video if you would like to think on it. So a web browser is a software application used for accessing information on the blank. Okay, we're going to reveal the answer. A web browser is a software application used for accessing information on the internet. So yeah, that's pretty much true. Not much to say about the statement, but yeah, so we're just going to be filling in the blanks. Okay, a URL is a blank for where something lives on the World Wide Web. Give you a little bit of time to pause the video. Okay, we're revealing the answer now. A URL is an address for where something lives on the World Wide Web. Something else you might have thought of is a URL is a link for where something lives on the World Wide Web. That would work as well. But this was just the more definitive answer, I guess you could say. This was more of the straight answer. But yeah, you could also say link. That would also be correct. And yeah. So HTML, hopefully we all know the answer to this one, by the way. HTML stands for Hyper Text Markup, and then blank. Okay, you can have time to pause the video if you need anything on this. Hopefully we all know the answer to this one. But anyways, HTML actually stands for Hyper Text Markup Language. Yeah. On to the next one. A markup language is a computer language that uses blank to define blank within a document. This is one of the hard questions, no problem if you don't get it. And yeah, so pause the video now if you want to think on it. Okay, a markup language is a computer language that uses tags to define elements within a document. Okay. So now we're on to section 4. You're going to be defining terms. You have time to think on it if you want. I'll also be defining it myself just to help you with your understanding. So of course this is now harder because we have to put things into our own words, which might not always be the easiest. Okay, so CSS properties, what is it? You could think in it of your head, you can pause the video, and I'll be just telling you what it is again. We've already discussed this when we were learning about learning how to write CSS. Okay, so a CSS property is basically like a specific thing you're styling for an element. Color is a CSS property, width is a CSS property, height is a CSS property, font size is a CSS property. These are all CSS properties. So we're pretty much determining what exactly we're styling about the element. So for example, if we were styling the P element, we could use the CSS property color to change the color of it. Okay, on to the next one. Hopefully you thought of something similar. Once again, of course, it might be a little bit harder to put things into words, but yeah. Okay, HTML attributes. What is it? Okay, you can pause the video if you kind of want to say your own answer, but I'll be revealing it now. Okay, so HTML attributes are, if you always forget what HTML attributes are, you can just compare it to real world attributes, because everything has an attribute almost. We humans have attributes. For an example, an attribute of a human is our eye color. And yeah, so I'm going to use, I think the best way to explain this is to use an example. So if we remember the image tag, something we can define about the image tag is its height. So that is an attribute that it has. Its width is also an attribute that it has. And yeah, those are kind of like HTML attributes. So HTML attributes are like additional maybe facts or characteristics about an HTML element. Okay. So next, the UL tag. So pretty much for this, you can just tell me what it defines in an HTML document. You can pause the video. We learned this closer around like day 1, so no problem if you don't remember. But yeah. Okay, so the UL tag defines an unordered list within HTML. Okay, now we have something that's a little bit outside of the simple the coding we're actually talking about within HTML, getting a little bit outside, but what is a text editor? Okay, so a text editor is a computer program that allows us to edit text. We use a text editor specifically for HTML to edit HTML, text, yeah. Simple text editors, I just guess to add more examples. Notepad is a text editor. Text editors can go from really simple and they can be more complex. Then we start calling them different things like IDEs, and yeah. So we're just going to keep it simple for now. And yeah, text editor is a computer program that allows you to edit text. Okay, lastly, CSS, what is it? Okay, yeah, you can pause the video. Okay. So I'm showing the answer now. First thing I can basically say about it is that CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheet. We basically use CSS along with HTML to basically make to style our work and make it look nicer. Usually we use it to make it look nicer. But yeah, we can use CSS to style our HTML work and make it more appealing and more unique to us. Without CSS, many web pages will look very alike. And yeah, so that's what CSS is. You could have said something similar. You could have talked about more about how it styles things, how you can change colors with things. But yeah, as long as you understand what it is. Okay. So HTML now. Hopefully we all know this. We can pretty much say a lot of things about it. There are many ways you can say what HTML is. So I'll say simply, I guess. You can pause the video now if you just want to think on this. Okay, so HTML is a Hyper Text Markup language, and in other words, HTML is the language of the web. Okay, so that's actually going to wrap up this class. Depending on how you did on the quiz, it's alright if you didn't do that well. It's alright if you did very well. Yeah, so hopefully you just learned something new and you cleared up some misunderstandings. I hope you guys learned something new, or I hope you cleared up some understandings. And yeah, have a great day. This was the homework from last class if you're just curious. This was a part of the live session. Okay? This is Zadari signing out, and peace.